The Against All Odds podcast, sponsored by Oak Forest Recovery.
This is the Against All Odds podcast, and this is an episode with just Rachel and I, where we're going to talk about different topics, and we're going to read through some questions that you guys...
We're going to talk some shit, and we're going to answer your questions. Where do you want to start on the questions? Do you want to tell me? Hunter was just telling me a story.
Yeah, so
about sugar addiction.
Recently, I did an intervention, and the individual ended up in treatment, and now they accidentally, ordered some like candy that was meant to go to the rehab, but it went to his house. And this individual's from the UK, so his mom, especially over there, with sugar, it's much different than here. And she was like panicking when this like huge bag of like candy showed up, and she's like, "Does he have like a sugar addiction now?" And I was telling her like, it's quite common for people to like switch to sugar, especially in rehab. Is that like something that you experienced or that you see other people go through?
Yeah, 100%. I think also in my addiction, my mom always knew when I was using, when there was like Airhead wrappers. Like I literally lived off like Mountain Dew Voltage and Airheads and like Newport 100s for a while. So because I learned later that it goes to like your dopamine receptors. Yeah. And then when you are in rehab, you need to like, your body is like, okay, I don't have crack and heroin anymore. I don't have my drug of choice.
You're trying to stimulate it.
I need something else. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And also, like, if you get medicated, certain medications like Seroquel and stuff will like...
Quillville munchies.
Yeah, that's going to induce some munchies for sure.
I gained, I think, 50, 60 pounds in like less than 2 months on Seroquel.
Wow.
Yeah, it was heavy. We all used to, like, when I was in treatment, a lot of us were on it, and like right before bed, we used to call it the Quillville munchies, and we used to all be sitting there like fighting the sleep or like whatever we were supposed to be doing, and just munching on like white bread sandwiches with like cereal. We'd be eating like cereal. I'd wake up with, we weren't allowed to have food in our rooms. Yeah. I would wake up with like the chips from the kitchen in my bed. Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, and you know what? I don't think it's like, I mean, obviously sugar's never really a good thing, but I don't think it's a bad thing that, I mean, when I came into treatment, I was like 45 pounds less than I'd ever been.
Right.
So it's not like a bad thing to like gain some weight. It's better than
crack.
Yeah, that's...
You know what I'm saying? I think that there's a period where your body has to adjust, and it's kind of, not that it's okay to like jump from one thing to another, but your body is going through such this like major overhaul that I think sugar is not really the worst thing immediately. Like, right away. Maybe not for the long term, but...
Yeah, I think if it's like 6 months down the road and you've gained like 150 pounds, you know what I mean? And like you're binging, like there's a problem. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. All right, what are some of the questions?
Yeah, we got some good questions from you guys. Thank you so much.
You're much more famous than me, so I got 5 questions.
Okay, where should we start?
Jessica said, "How much do you love me?" A lot.
The most. What's a good one to start on? How long did your withdrawal or any symptoms of withdrawal last for you when you got clean?
Well, I mean, I got clean a bunch of different times.
When you stayed sober.
The last time.
How long did it last? Yeah.
I was like on my deathbed pretty much when I came in, and I was like my body was trashed anyway, but I would say that I was in like the actual detox portion of treatment for like 9 days or something like that, 10 days, and I actually don't really remember it. A lot of people are like in fear of the withdrawal, but if you go to somewhere that specializes in that, like you're not going to experience much like pain or sickness. You know what I mean?
Usually they keep, if you go to a good detox or whatever, they usually keep you as comfortable as you can. Unless you do heroin while you're in detox and then it sets you back like I did.
Were you on subs then though? Did you get...
I was just off my sub taper when I did that.
Luckily.
One day.
Luckily.
Not really. Luckily. It was terrible. It set me back.
Yeah, like, but 100%. Imagine if you would have done it while
I didn't feel shit. I still didn't feel shit.
Oh, because it blocked it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
No, it was terrible.
That's terrible.
The whole thing was terrible.
So you just felt straight guilt and shame.
Yeah.
Without the benefits.
was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And then I went to residential. So like I said, for that situation, did I talk about that on this podcast before? I'll bring it up really quickly.
That was our first episode.
And we don't think we ever released that.
We never released it.
I talked about it.
Because we're going to have to redo it because we didn't know what we were doing then, you know?
We didn't know. Okay, we're just working with what we got. Okay, so I went to a treatment center in Austin, and basically I accidentally brought heroin in with me, which I didn't even know about. I thought I did all of my stuff, and this place checks all of your stuff, and they look through your things, and they search, and they make sure you don't have any drugs. But I had brought a heroin bag from New York, and we have like wax paper bags that look different than Texas tar, you know, it's just a whole different system. And so one of the techs who clearly just didn't know what a bag looked like from the Northeast put it in a Ziploc for me and put it back in my stuff. And so on the last day of detox, when you were going to transfer over to residential, because they were two separate facilities, they gave me my stuff back, and I opened my bag to find a Ziploc with like just, it was like, hello, God? Okay. And I did it immediately. And, but it was terrible. And I immediately wanted to AMA and leave, and it set me back in my withdrawal. I was like done with my sub-taper that I was on. So I was just starting to feel better. It set me back. They still sent me to residential, thank God, but I was sick as hell for another week in there. So, yeah.
Love that. I got a good one right here.
Okay.
Is it possible to be in a lasting relationship with someone in active addiction?
Like it,
I think there's a lot to that, because I feel like, you know, like let's say you're sober and then your like loved one falls into addiction. I don't think you should like automatically like give up on that person.
Right.
I think there's like, you know, you should go through the steps of like trying to help them and, you know, setting boundaries, and, you know, things might get better and they might actually be like an even better person than, you know, if they find recovery.
They might.
Than, you know, before. But like, if you just meet somebody and then you find out that they're in active addiction, I mean, it's like,
yeah.
you know, why were they being sneaky
I feel
about
like
it?
I feel like I would need to know exactly what the situation was. Like if you met someone and then on the second date you found out they were an active addict and you were like, fuck, you send it, I would probably question
if you were okay.
If you're okay, are you okay?
Yeah.
But if you're in a relationship, I don't think that for a regular human being, I don't think it is sustainable to be with someone long-term in active addiction if there's not some action that's, you know, they're not willing to get help, or, you know, and that could be an up and down thing. I know a lot of people who have been through that cycle where, you know, their partner is struggling for years on and off and like gets sober. But I think as long as there is like willingness to want to get some help, if there's not, then baby, leave. You know, you got to set some boundaries. That's what I think. I think that if there's just no helping this person while you're with them, then sometimes you need to remove yourself from that situation and set boundaries and do all that and love them from afar till they get it together.
Yeah, because it's not like it's not healthy for them. You know
exactly.
what I mean? You're like enabling them.
Right.
And you don't want to be responsible for that.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the hardest parts for people like, you know, normies, muggles, if you will, in relationships, that people have never experienced addiction themselves, and they're like, how do I do, which is it's a crazy thing to deal with, right? Like we manipulate, we do all of these things to people who haven't been in our same shoes. And I think that you just have to do a lot of research, and you have to ask for advice and ask for help, and like, yeah.
For sure.
That was a good one. But no, I don't think long term it's sustainable with no.
But if your loved one, you know, shows signs of being an addict and you've been with them for a period of time, I think that first things first, you need to educate yourself on how to support them, you know, and how to set healthy boundaries.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Boundaries and loving them and supporting them, and education and Al-Anon and shit like that.
Yeah.
All good. I think I actually had a question here about that. Not my hair on the phone. What are healthy craving substitutes that worked for you? So like when you're having a craving, What do you do?
I don't think that I've ever had a craving, to be honest with you.
In this round of sobriety?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I've never, like, sat there and thought, like, oh, it would be a great day to go get high.
Yeah.
And I find, like, even with, like, triggers, I don't know, I feel like people are like, oh, well, like, somebody commented on one of my posts today. It was, like, an old post. Mm-hmm. And it was, like, me sitting in a parking lot where I used to live and, like, get high and, like, be all the time. And this guy was like, oh, is that not, like, triggering? Like, I actually haven't felt triggered once. Which I feel like if you're having cravings and you are triggered and you're thinking about it, then, like, you need to do something different.
Right.
You know, you need to maybe get a sponsor and go to meetings and be part of the community. Yeah, like.
Yeah, for me too. I've been really lucky. Cravings took me out every time before this round of sobriety. Like, every single time that I would try to get sober, the first craving, immediately I was gone because I had no tools to get through that, which I guess that's what she's asking for. I think what I have learned, I've been really blessed as well this round of sobriety. As soon as I jumped into the 12-step work and I started being of service and I started listening to others, I haven't had one time where I've come close to using, or really, I don't really think about using much, which, like, that obsession was removed from me pretty early on. But I think that calling someone else, having a support network, trying to shift your mind to something else, like moving your body, basically learning all these healthy habits and, like, checking one off one by one, can, what do they say? Move the muscle, change the thought. You know, something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the gym is definitely a huge tool.
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
100%.
Like, honestly, like, I feel like once you get to a certain part, like, and you put in enough work, like, you don't want to go back. You don't even think about going back. You know what I mean?
Not me not being in the gym for 2 months after being in the gym for a minute. But yeah, no, the gym keeps me mentally sane for sure. And it, like, makes all these, like, endorphins.
Yeah,
it's good for your mental health. It's good for your body. It's good for everything. Move it.
For sure.
Move your bod. Okay.
Let me see if I got one.
Yeah, check it out.
This person's definitely from a different country, but they said, medicine for quit heroin, please, bro, help.
Medicine for quit heroin. Like, do you think he's referring to, like, maintenance, or, like, what can help coming off? I don't know if I should. I used to detox myself at home, and I don't want to be a street doctor on a social media platform, so I'm not going to go there. There are definitely meds that can help, but definitely do it with professional guidance.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, this was the follow-up to the question I asked earlier about the withdrawals. What's a good way to deal with pause? I've been clean off meth for 7 months now. Still feeling like shit, probably. How long did you feel, like, just besides the normal withdrawals, did you feel like shit for a period of time after that?
You know, I think with meth, you know, I think that's, like, definitely, if you're still feeling like shit that far in, that's definitely, like, an issue with, like, dopamine and serotonin and stuff like that. And I'm not necessarily against, like, antidepressants and stuff like that to help you. And I think that you should definitely have, like, a conversation with your doctor and say, look, this is where I'm at. Like, I'm this far in, and, you know, I'm still not feeling good. And I guess my other question is, are you completely sober as well? Because you said from meth.
Yeah.
So it makes me feel like if you're, like, using other stuff, like smoking weed or drinking or whatever, like, that's probably the cause of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know with opiates, I felt pause.
Yeah.
I don't know if my body was ever this. After all the damage I've done, there's still days today where I'm like, oh my God, I'm 7 years in and I'm going through pause. You know, I feel like shit. But I think that once you develop a healthier lifestyle, like, I know when I'm doing healthier things and I'm treating my body well and I'm drinking water and I'm not drinking Mountain Dew Voltage and eating Airheads all day, I feel better. So I think a lot of that, and especially as addicts, at least for me, I will look, like, when I'm sick, I'm like, this feels like heroin withdrawal, you know, immediately. I'm like, oh my God, you know, I know what could fix this. I can't do it, but, like, this could be fixed. And everything, Yeah, it can be a lot. So I think just giving yourself some time, seeking help if you need to seek help professionally, and trying to get all your emotions and chemicals in your brain back to normal can help a lot. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
You got a lot more than me. I'm not that cool.
How to support when a person returns to using and their shame has them isolate from support.
Wait, say that again?
How do you support someone who went back to using and their shame and guilt has isolated them from accepting support?
I think that in that situation, because they've relapsed, then they probably before had some kind of like community or support that they had, and what we would call that is a 12-step call. So you need to contact those people and say, hey, this is what's going on. Can you like come provide like some support and communicate with them and try to make them feel okay that, this happens and that, it's just what happens.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah. What else?
And also you need to make sure that they know that it's not okay to continue using and that they're risking their life.
Right. Yeah. Okay, how to deal with or overcome survivor's guilt. Man, that's a tough one. I think most of your friends are dead, right? Like mine.
I feel like I became kind of numb to it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Once it happens so many times that it's like sad, but you kind of expect it to happen almost. But I think that, you shouldn't like take the situation in vain and like feel guilty about it. I think if anything, you should like honor your loved ones, memory and like try to do something good and maybe share their story and, try to help somebody else so that they don't go through it,
Yeah. I dealt with a lot of survivor's guilt. I feel like I still do sometimes. I feel like I dealt with a lot more while I was in my active addiction and used that to fuel my addiction. I lost a lot of people when I was still out there, and that was always my first excuse to be like, oh, I can't believe like they died and not me and, whatever. So I have to fucking fuck my life up and like do all of these things, right? Because I couldn't really handle it. When I got sober, I mean, it's tough, dude. I feel like I still go through times where I'm like, why did we lose this person? And like, that never happened to me. But what I like to think is that God has a reason for everything. And that took a long time for me to like work through, because there was a long time where I was like, why would God do this? That's why. But I've tried to not ask why so much and just trust that everything happens exactly how it's supposed to, even the worst things that we go through in life or that other people go through in life. And it's definitely given me a little bit of peace. And that's why I share so much about my own addiction, so that I can help other people and so that other people don't lose their lives like a lot of my homies did,
For sure.
Yeah. How do you help a loved one who doesn't think meth is a problem because it's only once in a while? And this could go for like any drug, I feel like.
Yeah.
Only doing crack once in a blue.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like drugs like meth, using them every once in a while is still like,
I feel like
normal people do not use meth.
I was just about to say, usually there's not a ton. And socially doing meth, recreational crack use. I mean, there's people who binge, and that's what I think it is. I think when it's only once in a while, but it's like, okay, is it once in a while, like they're just doing it for an hour and then they're done, or are they going on a binge for days? Not that any amount of meth is like there's a socially acceptable amount, or any hardcore drug like that, but I think it's probably a lot harder for people to see when they're only doing it once in a while. Because I know my brain rationalized when I was in active addiction. It would be like, oh, I literally can stop whenever I want. I only do it this or that. So sometimes it's harder to get those people to see that, like, hey, bud, this might be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, and I think it's like if somebody's using a drug like that, then there's no way that they're well when they're not using a
Right.
drug like that. And I think that the focus needs to be around them overall. Just because like they are sober for a period of time doesn't mean that they're okay. And I think at the end of the day, you have to communicate what you're uncomfortable with, and you have to set boundaries and say, hey, listen, like, I know it's every once in a while, but it's unacceptable, and here's where I draw the line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the focus is really about yourself and like coming to terms with that, and then like really setting a hard boundary and being like, no, this is never okay, even if
Never,
it's every once in a
right.
while.
Yeah. As a recovering crackhead, I would say that there are certain drugs that are not usually like okay to use
Heroin,
even once in a
fentanyl,
while. Yeah,
meth.
it's usually like yeah, babe. Yeah. No
But-
judgment. Listen, no judgment at all because I've been there. I've had those times, but
I do know though, like people that can use like cocaine recreationally though.
yeah. Well,
As
I know
crazy
people
as that
that
sounds, you know?
can do meth I do know. I know people that can do meth every once in a while. I
Yeah.
know people that can do
I just
stuff
feel
like that.
like-
But it's not like you said during the rest of that time. It's
Yeah.
not like why? What's behind you wanting to do that?
I do actually feel like some like
Some people can handle it
the
on the outside.
gay community
Oh yeah.
actually utilizes meth a lot.
Yeah.
It's so it's like I don't know. It's kind of a fine line.
Yeah.
It's
it is
a fine line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you think the line is? Speaking of that, like where do you think the line between just partying and it being a problem is? I feel like that's
Yeah.
like a trick question kind of.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard because oh man, it's such a
Because
hard
when
one
you
because it's
think-
like it's never really okay.
Right.
It's never really okay. But there are people that use stuff like that. And specifically, like, back to, like, the gay community, they use it for chemsex or
Yeah.
whatever. They use other things, GHB
Yeah.
and, MDMA and stuff like that. I mean, I don't personally condone any of that because I feel like drugs are damaging your body.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be using any of that shit.
But if
there are
someone
people that can do it.
hypothetical- right? Because so here, I was never a normal person, but I tried to be
Yeah.
normal so many times, and like so, I used to go to a lot of festivals. I used to do a lot of
Yeah.
partying, and there was a lot of people that could just socially do, there Molly, and there was meth in it, and
Yeah.
there was meth in it. Okay, so I was out. I guess I was out here doing a little bit of meth, like. But I wasn't okay. But
Yeah.
then other people could do that just a little festival weekend once in a
Yeah.
while and be fine. And I guess that comes back to the brain chemistry behind it and how it's being.
I mean, I
used.
guess at the end of the day, people can drink acceptably, and
Right.
alcohol is a drug. So
Right.
what makes it really?
Yeah, we don't fucking know. I guess
That's a hard
what
one.
it comes down to.
I mean, listen, I personally think that if you can drink every once in a while and be fine, like that's good for you. But at the same time, I'm like, do you really need like
right?
alcohol
What's the reason?
why?
to be okay,
You know
or
what I
not
mean?
to be
Like,
okay, but to have a good time. Yeah.
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 That's a sensitive subject. I feel like
To
just in general, using
oh, it
drugs
is.
recreationally.
I made a post the other day on Threads about because I'm just like it's so weird to me how normalized drinking is, but also like pushed. Like it is so pushed onto society. Like it's not a literal poison, like it's
Yeah.
not one of the most dangerous things you could be doing. Most people agreed, I feel like, but there was a lot of people who got open arms about it.
Yeah.
Which I get because I never use my platform to try to like attack people that can drink normally. That's never like I love that for you. If I could do it, I would.
Yeah.
Like I would. I say that straight up all the time.
Yeah.
I know for me I can't, and that's just how it goes. But I think I got into a debate with my mom about it recently, we were talking about because I was saying how pushed it is, and then she was like, well, now weed's legal everywhere, and then we got into the debate whether alcohol was worse than weed, and there's a lot of people that my
Alcohol's
mom's
way
age.
worse than weed.
Thank
Alcohol's way worse
you.
than
Okay,
weed.
thank you. Because a lot of the older generations think that they're like, oh my God, marijuana, like, and they don't see alcohol as that. And
Alcohol
I'm like,
is literal poison.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I've been saying. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got into the whole debate about that, which I think it's also a generational thing. I think that like now that weed is becoming legal, a lot of people are like, oh my God, that dope, you know?
Alcohol is way worse.
Right.
There's
I
not
agree.
even like a comparison,
Right.
really. Yeah.
I agree. I'm glad we established that. Okay, let's see what other.
If you were to relapse, what would you do? What steps would you take?
Oh, I
What
thought you
would
were asking
happen?
me what drugs I would do.
No. Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, all of them. But
Yeah.
what would you do if you relapsed?
Okay, if I was to relapse, which I've done so many times, God, I can't even. You know what's so funny is I can't picture a relapse right now at this point in my life.
Yeah.
Like truly,
No,
I
get
can't.
it. I get it.
I would immediately call my sponsor. I work a 12-step program.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a sponsor, I would reach out to somebody in my sober network, because usually if you're sober, you have to have at least one person in your life who knows, whatever's going on. I would reach out and I would tell on myself immediately, and I would hopefully be willing to go accept some help and figure out what the hell.
Do you think it would be
happened.
obvious if you relapsed?
Hell yeah. You know, it's so funny because people on my platforms all the time will be like, I think she's on crack again. Or like, just
you
because
would fucking know.
if I was on crack, I would be by myself in my car.
You wouldn't be posting.
Looking at the shadow people, not talking to anybody.
Yeah.
Like people, it's so funny because people will be like, she's on fucking drugs. I'm like, babe, if I was on drugs, I would be in my bathroom peeking out the blinds, sitting in the fucking corner, not talking to a soul. I'm not the type of person that goes out.
Yeah.
And as a social crackhead, I'm by myself doing like the most weird things.
Weird shit,
The
yeah.
most weird shit you've ever even thought of.
Yeah,
like,
weird shit.
by myself. No
sure.
one around.
Yeah, nobody would want to be around.
No, not at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got a good one. Are you grateful for struggles and addiction because it taught you things you wouldn't have ever learned if it wasn't for going through those things?
Say it again.
Are you grateful for struggles and addiction because it taught you things you wouldn't have ever learned if it wasn't for going through those things?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, for sure. And it makes me a lot more grateful for like the life I have today. You know what I mean? Like if I didn't go through that, then because like, look, the reality is I was like spoiled and enabled and coddled by my mom and my grandma my whole life.
Yeah.
And without the drugs and without going through addiction and then finding recovery, I would probably still be like a whiny fucking spoiled, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have found recovery, and I probably wouldn't have grown up, you know?
Yeah, I
one
think
of
the
those things.
same. I think that everything that I've gone through, even the really, really, really shitty things, I think everything that I've gone through for a reason. This is like this is where everything comes from. I try to just trust that everything happens how it's supposed to, and everything that I've been through, I now have a testimony that I can like help other people with.
Yeah.
It fucking sucked when it was in it, okay? It sucked. I'm not saying that there's not things that I wish went a little bit differently, but I don't regret anything that happened the way it did, and I can be grateful for it today because it brought me to where I am. And
Right.
now I can look back and be like, damn, bitch, you were a whole crackhead, and now look at you now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Justin sent me some
Oh, yeah.
good
What
questions.
you got?
How does kids complicate the decision to get sober?
Having kids?
Yeah. How does having kids make it even harder for somebody to get sober?
Oh, I know for me, I justified my addiction for a really long time because I was like, I can't leave my kid. I can't leave my kid and go to treatment.
And I hear that like all the time.
Yeah. No, I was like, no, I can't leave my kid. He needs me,
Yeah.
you know. And that was there for a long, it took me over 10 years to actually get sober and like finally get it. And a lot of that time was because I was like, can't leave my kid. But then when I finally went to treatment, right? And this is when I finally got sober. I was planning to go to treatment for the 30 days and go back home and be done and go back to my kid and go back to my job and live the same life I was just living before I left. And they said to me, and I said like a major reason that I wanted to go back so soon was my kid. I'm like, I need to, like he needs his mom, right? And how they put it to me is you can either spend a little bit more time now and have like a good foundation and like make sure you're really okay and like take care of you for a second so that you can take care of him and be the mom that he needs, or you can rush back home, go right back into the environment that you were in, and potentially relapse and die, and he doesn't have a mom at all.
Yeah.
That's how they put it real harsh.
Because it's like
to
literally that serious.
Yeah, no,
you
truly.
know?
And I'm grateful every day that, I mean, that was a really hard decision for me to make. Like, it was a really hard decision for me to make, to stay longer and like give myself, but how I couldn't look at it as like I was doing something for myself, really. I was like, I'm doing this for my kid. I have to spend this time away so that, and now, you know, Johnny we have the best relationship ever. He's with me in Austin. I had to spend this little amount of time compared to the rest of his life to get myself right so that he can have a mom. Yeah. Period.
Well, and I think that if you're a parent or anybody and you're at the point of like questioning whether you have a problem and you're questioning whether you need help, then that's like a good sign that things aren't okay. And it's like, do you really think that your kids, if they don't know now, won't realize like what's going on?
Right.
And I feel like because there's no way that you're happy all the time. Like, you know, you're restless, irritable, and discontent. You're probably frustrated with them, with yourself. And like that kind of stuff like rubs off on your kids. And that's just like the reality of what it is. And it's like, you know, I feel like you sacrificing a very, very short period of your kid's life, they're not going to remember that.
Right.
But they're going to remember you being miserable and addicted or drunk or whatever. They're going to remember the however long, many years of that in comparison to like, let's say, the 90 days that you take to go to treatment.
Right. Yeah. So. I think that for parents, it can seem like such a huge thing in the moment, because especially if you have your kids like I had my son 24/7. He was with me in the trenches, right?
Yeah.
And so to think of even going like a week without him was crazy. But when it was brought to me, like, you just take this little amount of time. I know it seems like a long time, right? But it's not. In the grand scheme of things and the rest of your kid's life and the rest of your life, it's not. It's such a small amount of time that you can put to never having to do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, like, I feel like it can, even without kids, treatment can seem like a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I got to leave my job and X, Y, and Z for, you know, a period of time. But really, there's laws and there's systems in place to protect people who are like seeking help. And even though it's a commitment and it seems risky, it's actually not. Like you leaving your job or whatever to go get help, like you'll be good, you know, especially like getting it over with instead of wasting the next 10 years of your life.
Right.
Like, you don't want to do that. You know?
When you get really caught up in like the cycle of like these little spurts of time where you're trying to do something and then rush right back, it's like the more time you have to dedicate to your recovery, like away from the world and away from all the extra shit in life, the better chance you have at staying sober, period, in the long run. That's why long-term treatment centers work the best, right? That's why like all of these things. So it's a small blip of time compared.
Especially with like Oak Forest, you know, like we're really intensive, right? Like we're not like a normal treatment program. So if you commit to 90 days, you're really getting like what you would get somewhere else in like 6 months, you know, like if you commit to 90 days somewhere like Oak Forest, like you're going to get a lot out of that. Yeah. And by the time you go home, you're going to be solid, you know?
Recovered. This is a good one. How to cope with getting and staying sober while your boyfriend or girlfriend is still using. How to help them. So I'm assuming what this is like both parties are struggling with addiction and one wants to be sober and maybe the other doesn't, or it's vice versa. Listen, I've been in relationships like that. Where one of us would want to get sober, but the other one didn't. And then this one wanted to get sober, but the other one didn't. And it never, I'm going to be really brutally honest with you. In my experience, the best thing to do in those situations is to separate, go get your help.
Yeah.
They go get their help. And I know that people don't want to hear that. Okay, babe? Because I didn't either. But if you want to be sober and your partner is actively using, the chances of you getting sober with a partner that is actively using are very small.
Yeah.
Like very small.
Well, and also like if you've been with this person for like a long period of time, and like let's say you're wanting to go to treatment, like any good treatment center will then utilize family therapy for it to be a healthy communication. Right. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then look, you're setting the example for them. And you're protecting yourself at the same time. And maybe you're going to inspire them to get help. But, you know, you have to, like, it's a hard thing. But you got to really set, like,
and
a firm boundary.
I feel like in those situations, at least in my experience, that's really hard because there's usually a lot of trauma bonding involved. There's a lot of, you know, like usually when two people are using together in a relationship or struggling, there's some major ties that need to be separated before anybody can get sober or clean, period. Yeah. So, sending you love. Okay.
Checking my crypto mid.
Did you buy Hot Tua coin?
No. That just sounds risky.
No, apparently she's going to prison. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, but I feel like why though? I feel like maybe she was misled. Because there's no way she just said, I'm going to create a cryptocurrency by myself.
Yeah.
But she shouldn't have been promoting it.
Is there any misconceptions about recovery that you wish people understood better?
Yeah, I think specifically 12-step recovery is that people consider it like a Christian program. I think we talked about this before, but, you know, it's really to help you understand, and given it's labeled God, you know, but it's really about finding a higher power, something outside of yourself.
God of your own understanding. Exactly.
So, like, it's not like, you know, you don't have to be a Christian to participate in a 12-step program. And if that's what's stopping you, then I would challenge you to at least like give it a try, get through the steps, and then tell me you haven't found a God of your own understanding.
I think people get really tripped up at the word. I know I did. The word God, period, especially if people have religious trauma or they're, you know, I think that throws a lot of people off. And it took me a long time to move past that word. But that's what you have to understand is that's just the word. They're not talking about Jesus. They're talking about Jesus if you want it to be Jesus, right? But it's a God of your own understanding. Like they say in meetings, that could be the door handle or, you know, whatever the stupid saying is. For me, I don't exactly still know what mine is, right? You don't actually need a definition for it. Sometimes it could just be a feeling. Sometimes it can be other people in the room. Sometimes it could be just like nature, music, like
I think
readings.
The best one for people that struggle is to consider their higher power like the overall group of, you know, 12 steps or whatever,
right.
Like the fellowship should be like, if you're struggling with that, like think of it as, you know, this group of people is bigger than me. So that's going to be my higher power until I like really figure it out. Or maybe it stays that. Yeah. But I've met people that are Muslim, that are Buddhist, that, you know, are obviously Christian, people that didn't believe at all. But the 12 steps worked for them. Yeah. So I would say give it a chance at least.
Yeah. I think a common misconception also is that like sobriety is boring. Like you can't have fun. You're square. You're vanilla.
What was fun about being in psychosis, peeping out of a
Motel
6 people for 17 hours straight?
I used to literally sit in my car or in the bathroom for hours. Like I didn't do anything with my life but get high.
That shit was so
I
fun.
was just out here being fucking weird, doing weird things, being real weird, not doing anything positive for myself or going anywhere or doing anything for over a decade of my life. Like I had nothing to show for that time at all. Like I didn't do shit.
It's so fun to nod out for 12 hours straight.
Right. No, it's not. It's really not. Because it's just, today I live a life where I'm actually living, which is beautiful because I lost over a third of my life to like literally just not feeling anything, not doing anything, not going anywhere. And today I can get on a plane without having to worry about me being dope sick tomorrow when I wake up in another country.
I was just about to say the most fun part was the withdrawals. Like, what the fuck? That's the worst.
Yeah.
Like, that's the worst misconception.
Yeah. Sobriety is fun and I know that sounds so corny. I think when they're like, what we say, like, no, being sober is so much fun. They're like, shut the fuck up. You're weird. You're making.
Well, they're thinking it's like a party, but like, really, if you're at the point where you really probably genuinely need help, like, I'm not saying like party, like if you're partying, you might need help, but when you get to the point where you're like, oh shit, I need help, like more often than not, you're like tweaked out, knotted out, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have ruined every relationship.
Right.
You know, like you're isolated. You know, there's
life
nothing fun.
Life is usually not fun.
Like, what the hell?
If you have an actual problem, life usually isn't fun.
It's not fun.
Sobriety is.
Yeah.
Okay. I also think another misconception about like, especially what we do and like talking about sobriety, especially on a public platform and stuff, is that it's like for a pat on the back or things like that. But I was actually reading my daily reflections this morning, and I thought of this where is my daily reflections app? When really, okay, to renounce the alcoholic world is not to abandon it, but to act upon principles I have come to love and cherish, and to restore in others who still suffer the serenity I have come to know. When I am truly committed to this purpose, it matters little what clothes I wear or how I make a living. My task is to carry the message and lead by example, not design. And that is the main purpose, right? Like my purpose in life that I have found is to use what I have gone through and like my as my service, as my 12 step, which may look frowned upon to some AA communities, is to just like get my message out there and help as many people as I can with it, to let them know that they're not alone and they can get out of it. Yeah. So we don't need a cookie. The reason why we share things is not for praise or, sympathy. I see a lot of that too. They're like, "Oh, you want a cookie?" And I'm like,
I've already felt bad for myself enough.
No, truly, like
I don't need you to feel bad for me too.
Right.
Like,
so I think that a lot of people, like when I see it with not just with me, like with other addicts, are like, I see in the comments like all these people like, all right, we get it, or like this and this, and they don't understand like the reason that most people that have been through what we've gone through share that is to help other people out there that are still going through it.
I wanna touch on something.
Yeah.
That happened.
Yeah.
So, we had a troll not too long ago. You remember I sent you screenshots of that person that worked for a treatment center that was like saying crazy shit on
about me?
Like she was commenting on our podcast. And I sent it to you and I was like, so
yeah.
If you work in treatment or if you're sober and you're hating on other people that are sober and helping people, and like it's just not like the way that you would do it, or it's different from like your I don't know, but don't like hate on other people for.
I would just say that we're gonna pray for that girl, and she clearly has. So this is how I look at things.
Well,
people
her
that
boss knows about it now. So.
Ooh, people that do things like that and that have to, especially being bold on a public platform like that.
She was saying some crazy shit.
She was saying some crazy. She was. But here's what I think is
sick.
She's probably sick. You know, she probably has some things going on internally where she is probably in a lot of self-loathing. She maybe, who knows? Maybe she went out and maybe that's triggering her and she's like in her shit, and you never know. So
crazy.
We pray. We pray.
Oh man, I was trying to think of. I had another one, but I just forgot.
Do you want me to look? I think we went through a lot. How do you celebrate your milestones in recovery?
On my year sober, I jumped out of an airplane.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It was super fun.
I don't do much. I just talk to my friends. I pick up a little chip.
I make a post on Facebook.
Yeah, I make a post on Facebook. That's right. Okay, unaffordable, inaccessible professional help is the most massive obstacle. Where do I start?
12-step programs are free. Sponsorship is free. Working the steps is free.
There's also
The
a ton
fellowship.
of, fellowship is, obviously we're going to say that, but I will say that also, even if you're not interested in 12-step, there are so many resources online. I run 3A recovery, which is like, it's not necessarily 12-step, but it's recovery support meetings. They're 100% free. All you need to do is download Zoom, and there are places like that and communities all over the internet.
There's also like Dharma recovery. There's
Smart recovery.
What's the other one too? That's
Dharma?
like Buddhist. There's like another one that's like I care refuge recovery.
Refuge, yeah. Smart recovery.
Also, like, I think that we're really blessed. And like, I don't know if that person's in the United States. Generally speaking, there are a lot of state-funded resources and also nonprofit-funded resources. Now, they're not always like comfortable. It's probably going to suck. But, you know, generally speaking, it's somewhere where you can detox safely, you know, be supervised, you know, learn about recovery, like be in a community. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be like, maybe it's not up to your standards and that's why you don't want to do it. But I know some of the most solid people I've ever met in recovery are people that went through state-funded homeless shelter, like that type of stuff.
I've had to go to state-funded places.
Yeah, me too.
And
me too.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And they, you know.
I mean,
work with what
it
you
does
got.
suck. It's
It
not.
can suck.
Yeah.
It can suck.
Now, if you're in a state like Ohio or if you're in West Virginia, there's a lot of resources in Kentucky. New York has a ton of resources.
Where were they at
I've got a
when I
list
was
of like
there?
30 pages of Medicaid resources in New York. Like there are places that take Medicaid in certain states. Now, given Texas isn't great for Medicaid, to be honest with you, Florida, like there are some places that aren't great, but if you reach out, like there are people that will help you for free. Maybe
True.
it's just not what you want, but it's just the reality of
Yeah.
it.
Can we talk about like scholarships and stuff on here?
Yeah. So at Oak Forest also we work with various organizations. One of them is the Jeremy Castro Foundation. I can't remember the other one, but if you contact us, we can connect you with. I can't remember the name of them, but there's somebody else that actually funds sober living. But if you have to
There's
put an application in, you know.
There's a lot of places
Yeah.
like that. Clean Cause, I know, helps pay for sober living. There is a lot of, you just have to really get online and do some research. Maybe we can even come up with like something.
Yeah.
Where we list all of these resources for people, because I would really love. I know that my ass was definitely needed help.
I mean,
financially.
look, at the end of the day, if you reach out to me or Rachel or Oak Forest Recovery, we are very responsive. We're the ones responding. We don't have this like crazy like AI automated system. Like we actually put in the work to respond to people. And we will help you no matter what.
No matter what.
No matter what.
So that I think that's a lot of. I want to
Yeah.
talk about that really quick too, because I think a lot of the people that see Oak Forest and maybe they don't qualify to come to Oak Forest, or they
Yeah.
can't get out of their state or whatever. We also will make sure to send you resources for your state, whether you have Medicaid, whether you have state funded, and we will find you some kind of resource that's going to be suited to you, regardless of your situation. So it's not
Yeah.
just like.
And also, like with Oak Forest, we're not like a luxury program. Like we're in California, but we're not like some like Malibu, like
Passages
bougie.
Malibu.
You're not getting massages with us. Like it's not like you're not getting acupuncture. Like that's not us. And we will get you in. We'll work with you to get you detoxed and get you into sober living for like a fair price for what you get. You know. Yeah. Maybe I should talk about Oak Forest real quick. I don't think we've ever really kind of. So I, as an individual, have worked with rehabs all over the world. I've had many offers to work with facilities in America. I have been with Oak Forest, for going on 5 years because I love what we do. We're not for everyone. We are a 90-day minimum, like high structure, high accountability. You're
Super
getting a sponsor.
high, yeah.
You're working the 12 steps. You're going to 2 meetings a day, Monday through Saturday. You are participating in recovery, and also our clinical team is amazing. We have all master's level therapists that have been sober for 10 plus years themselves. We have a doctor of psychology running our program from the operations side. We have an amazing psychiatrist. We have, it's a young adult program with an amazing young adult alumni community. Every Thursday, we have a 200 plus person bonfire meeting, every Thursday.
Bonfire's fire.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah,
We
so
love
many good
Bonfire.
speakers.
Yeah.
Fly out from all over. We have a really amazing family program. Like I said, we're not luxury. So in comparison, I don't want to say that it's
It's nice
cheap.
though. I feel like
It's
I feel like
nice,
you're also,
but
it's nice, but it's not.
it's
You're not
not
going
like-
to Passages It's
Yeah.
it's not your typical you're going there on a vacation.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
For sure. For sure. And look, we are in a very beautiful place. It's gorgeous there. So, and we take most PPO out of network insurances. And also, I want to say that we have a very, very involved admissions team. We have resources pretty much anywhere in the world. But especially throughout the United States, we'll always help you get somewhere safe, even if you're not a good fit for us. And that's kind of it.
Hell yeah.
So,
Should we wrap it up there?
yeah. What are we at? We're at.
I feel like we've
Oh
been-
wow, we're at an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
That's it.
Okay. Make good choices. Say your prayers and don't do crack.